Welcome back to In Short, a monthly series where we take the best modern business books and turn them into actionable insights that you can start implementing today. Let's roll the intro while I clean this up. By the end of the week, you might have a validated business model you can dive into. It's never been easier to start a business. Now it's finally starting to feel like summer, and one of my favorite parts of summer are the road trips. During road trips, there's that part where you finally hit that stretch of country road and you see a cow. Now it's super exciting seeing a cow because obviously we don't see cows that often in the city. So when you see the first one, it's great. You put your phones, you point at your friends, you're like, yo, that's you, and you point to the cow. But after the second, third, and fourth cow, it's not that fun anymore. You've seen a couple, whatever. But what if in the next kilometer you saw a purple cow?
Whoa!
That would get your attention. I've never seen a purple cow before, and neither has any of my friends. So the minute we see a purple cow, boom, we're up, we're paying attention. It's remarkable. And that's exactly what Seth Godin talks about in his book, Purple Cow. If you're not familiar with Seth Godin's work, he's one of the brightest brains in modern day marketing. He doesn't talk about social media trends or when to post on Instagram or what the best algorithm hack is or any of that. He focuses on traditional marketing strategies that can be applied to any medium no matter what's going on today. Now, marketing can feel like a race to keep up with trends constantly. There's always new features on Instagram and Twitter that are coming out, and we always feel the need to jump on top of them, even if they're not right for our marketing strategy. But when you step back from social media marketing, you start to realize that the fundamental core of any platform is word of mouth marketing. That tried and true, telling a good friend when you had a good experience with a company, that word of mouth marketing is still gold. That's still what reaches the most conversions and results in the highest return on investment for any sort of marketing. Now, word of mouth is still the best form of marketing, even in 2020 with all the social networks that are available to us. Now, Seth Godin uses the word remarkable as a way to describe innovations and marketing campaigns that win our hearts. Let's take a look at that word remarkable and go back to the root. Remark. What does that mean? To make a remark about something. To be conversation worthy. Seth Godin says that you want to build products and marketing campaigns that are worth talking about. So even though the mediums of marketing, the social channels, the distribution channels for any marketing collateral, those change, the actual act of what happens on those platforms hasn't changed at all. Think about it. When you ask a viewer to comment or subscribe or share it with a friend, what are you asking them to do? You're asking them to tell a friend that they enjoyed this experience or that they liked the product or that they should also purchase it themselves. That's still word of mouth marketing. Now, why is word of mouth marketing the best strategy? Well, a few reasons. Number one, it shows trust. If my friend tells me that I should go to the store to buy this thing, I'm gonna trust my friend. Number two, it's all about people. If there's a lot of people talking about you, people don't wanna miss out. FOMO. If your brand or your product or your campaign is being talked about, people wanna be a part of the conversation. Now, a key thing to remember here is that being good enough, or as Seth Godin says, very good, isn't enough to be talked about. Very good or good enough is the standard. That's what's expected. You should be good if you're in the market. To be talked about, you've got to be, as Seth Godin says, remarkable. Now, in an effort to be talked about, what do brands do? That's right, they make content.
100 pieces of content.
But we got to be careful here because that can be a slippery slope of putting out too much content. To have people talking about you, they've got to know you exist. And how do you do that? By putting out content. But Seth Godin reminds us that there's already so much noise out there, that there's already so much content out there, that if we just contribute to the content noise, we're going to be ignored like the rest of people. Content is kind of like brown cows. When you put out content, when you put out the same content as everyone else, there's brown cows everywhere. If I'm scrolling my Instagram feed and I see the same content, the same selfies, the same text posts from every single brand, I'm going to start to ignore it. But if I see something I've never seen before on social media, or if I hear an ad that I've never heard before, I'm going to pay more attention to that. That's a purple cow. That's what Seth Godin tells us to do when it comes to our advertising. Now, a key thing to remember there when it comes to content is that you want to put context over content. Here's what I mean by that. Content marketing is something that you have to do, but you need to balance that with contextual marketing. Contextual marketing looks at each individual customer as a unique person. For example, if you're a shoe company selling running shoes, you're going to create different creative and different content for a seasoned marathon runner than you would to someone who's just starting to get active again. Someone who's just starting to get active again and wants to get fit is going to be worried about the right type of shoe or how to pick the right shoe or what sort of activities they're going to be doing and what shoe is best for that. Whereas a seasoned marathon runner, they might be more concerned about the technical aspects. What kind of shoe has a better thread for pavement? What sort of shoe is better for my arches? What sort of shoe helps me avoid plantar fasciitis? By being contextual, you deliver different types of content to different customers depending on where they are in the buyer journey. So when you're creating content, you want to do two things. One, be contextual, and two, create purple cows of content. But be careful, if you produce too many purple cows too often, that'll become the new norm, and you'll start to become ignored again. Now, the best way to shield yourself from being ignored by everyone is to not serve everyone. Takeaway number 3 is don't be for everyone. Seth Godin gives us the example of Dell versus Apple. Dell looks to serve everybody. They want to serve the majority of people, they want to serve the average customer, and they look to make average changes to their products every single year. Apple only focuses on a specific set of customers. They don't care about serving everybody. They don't care to price it at a price point that's accessible to everybody. They don't try to make the cheapest product. They don't try to make a product that's going to work for everybody. Dell and Apple both serve different parts of the diffusion innovation curve. For everyone who fell asleep during the business class, here's a quick recap of the diffusion of innovation model. So in the middle, you have your early majority and your late majority. These are the majority of customers who will buy your product, otherwise known as the average customer. On the left end, you have innovators and early adopters, and on the right end, you have laggards. Now, like we mentioned, Dell serves the early majority and the late majority. That's the middle of the curve. Whereas Apple, they serve the innovators and early adopters. When you serve the middle of that curve, you're serving the average customer. And as a result, your product becomes average. Remember, when you're average, you become ignorable. When you serve the early adopters and the innovators, those are the people that are going to talk about your product to each other and make remarks about it. The key characteristics of innovators and early adopters are that they want to be the people that talk about something first. They're the influencers of the group. They find products first and they tell each other about it, and that produces a word of mouth effect for your product. Now, serving these two groups, the innovators and the early adopters, also benefits you in the form of memes. Now, I don't have the iPhone 11 Pro, but when the iPhone 11 Pro launched, it had when the concept art came out for the iPhone 11 Pro, it had the 3 circles here, and that got memed to no end. Now, on the surface, having memes made about you might seem like a bad thing, but it's actually another form of word-of-mouth marketing. The more time your product gets seen by more people, you're top of mind. And when the time comes for them to go and make a decision on the next phone they're going to buy, who are they going to be thinking of? Apple. Now, takeaway number 4, leaving marketing as an afterthought. There's a famous saying that says, build it and they will come. In today's day and age of marketing, that's flat out wrong. Traditionally, people have built products, done all the research and development about them, released them, and then thought about how do we get people to buy them. Seth Godin urges the opposite approach. He wants marketing to be baked into the product from day one. Now, we've seen great examples of brands and influencers building audiences before launching a product. A super notable example is Kylie Jenner. She built up a following of millions of followers on Instagram before launching the Kylie Lip Kit. By building an audience, she got an intimate one-to-one connection with them, they trusted her, and she got insights into what her customers would want. So by the time she released a product, it was made perfectly and specifically for her audience. It wasn't built around what she thought they would want, it wasn't built around trends or what the other industry competitors were doing. It was built around what her audience wanted, a very specific niche. Seth Godin, again, wants us to focus on very specific audiences. He tells us that if we try to serve everyone, we become average. When you become average, you get ignored. By building an audience first, you're able to listen to these insights and know exactly what they want and build a product for them, thereby reversing the traditional model of production before marketing and instead putting distribution ahead of product development. By focusing on marketing first, you serve your customers well by creating a product that they actually need. Building an audience first gives you a direct distribution channel to your customers and allows you to market right to them without relying on any third-party advertisers. Now, our final takeaway number 5, is to stop yelling at customers. Seth Godin reminds us that the traditional TV model of advertising does not work anymore. Here's what that used to look like. After work, Friday night, Saturday night, you're laying back on your couch, remote in hand, scrolling through channels. You're just channel surfing, and when an ad comes on, you can either skip the channel or just keep watching through it if you want to watch your show. Now we have the option to skip ads on YouTube, we can just watch Netflix where there's no ads, or we can scroll past ads on our social media feeds. The TV model of advertising, of outbound marketing, of yelling at the customer, doesn't work anymore. Now it's interesting to note another traditional marketing rule here, the rule of 7. Now we've all heard this rule where basically it states that a customer has to see your ad or your product 7 times before making a purchase. I don't think that's absolutely right. If we think back to the TV model, a customer had no choice but to sit through your ads, so they had to watch it 7 times or more to know about your product and actually buy it. So what does the Rule 7 look like in 2020 where we have social media and the ability to skip ads? The Rule 7 in 2020 is no longer about yelling at your customers 7 times, but instead you have 7 opportunities now to build trust with your customers. This trust is best built through, again, contextual marketing and inbound marketing. So going back to context for a minute, the context of TV was interruptive. You were sitting down for your show and you wanted to watch that. Having an ad thrown at you 15 or 20 minutes in was interruptive. Inbound marketing is about meeting people where they want to be met, how they want to be met, with what they want to be met by. So if you go back to our running shoe example, an example of inbound marketing there is putting out a blog post about how to run or how to pick a shoe for yoga or how to pick a shoe for walking trails. That type of content is great for a customer who's just, again, starting to get active. On the other end of the spectrum, if a customer is ready to buy a shoe for a very specific need, like a marathon, you can write how to pick the best shoe for a marathon, how to pick the best shoe for a 25K. Those are very specific. And again, neither of those pieces are yelling at a customer. You're not throwing that at someone who doesn't need shoes. With TV, if an ad comes on for cereal, but I hate cereal, that ad doesn't apply to me. But if I'm Googling specifically, intentionally for running shoe blog posts, I'm gonna find that. It's gonna be served to me because I express an intent to find that piece of content. Inbound marketing lets your customers come to you when the time is right, where outbound marketing yells at a bunch of people hoping that a small percentage of them will become customers. So in conclusion, how can you build or find do you raise cows? How do you raise your purple cow?
I have no idea.
So to build your purple cow, there's a couple things that you can do. Number one, trust your data. Make decisions based off of data, but also trust your gut. Remember, data is dated. Data is looking back on things that have already happened, the past. Data is a good indicator of what might happen in the future, but it can't tell you exactly what's going to happen. How you look into the future is about listening to your customers, which is point number two. Read the comments, message your customers directly, use surveys, and find out where their head's at. But also, number three, customers don't know what they want until you give it to them. Customers have an inkling of what they like or don't like, but they don't know what's going to come out next. They don't know what they're going to want tomorrow. So how do you prepare for that? Number four, create a culture of innovation. Purple cows don't happen on regular average thinking. Purple cows don't occur by doing what's safe. Being safe is the riskiest thing because everybody else, your competitors, they're also being safe. To encourage innovation, create and cultivate a comfortable environment for your team where they feel safe bringing out their craziest ideas and their own purple cows to you. By innovating and avoiding complacency, that's how you always keep pumping out more and more purple cows and milking each of them for maximum profit. Finally, remember, everything is crazy until it's done. Once upon a time, purple cows were insane. Now, purple cows are expected. Tomorrow, you might need a kaleidoscope cow or a rainbow cow or an upside down cow. But most importantly, throughout all this innovation, don't forget that you can't be serving your ego. Keep your focus on your customers. Serve their needs, serve their wants, and provide excellent customer service, because that in itself is a purple cow. So friends, thank you again for tuning into another episode of In Short, and today's book again was Purple Cow by Seth Godin. If you want to pick this up or dig into a more detailed analysis, check out my blog post in the link below, and check out the link to actually purchase a copy of Purple Cow down in the description as well. And of course, if you enjoyed this, please help me with my word of mouth marketing by sharing this with a friend, dropping a comment, and of course, subscribing. It would mean a lot to me, and we'll see you next time. Happy reading.